Hey guys, welcome back to the Homemade Haven. I took a stroll through our garden and noticed that a lot of our seedlings and some of the seeds that we had planted have started to get eaten. Upon further investigation, I noticed that the bug that was eating these seedlings was not one that I would have ever suspected to be eating them. So I thought that I would pick up the camera and take you guys along to see what the issue is in the garden and see how we're going to try and treat it. We have just recently planted our garden, and so I'll give you guys a quick tour of what we've got in here real quick as we make our way to the beds that have the bug damage, and then we'll get on with what today's video is about. So if you guys remember from our last garden tour videos, we had 12 raised beds last year. We finished the 2 raised beds that never had stuff in them, so now we have 14 raised beds. And we've decided to put all low growing items in these beds, except for the last few beds. We have some of our hooped cattle panels for some trellising back there. I'll show you guys what that looks like in a minute. But we wanted to try and keep our view as good as possible of our newly dug pond that's at the back of the property. So from inside the house, we didn't want to clutter our view too much. Those trellises, when they're full, this summer will inhibit our view a little bit, but it's only for a season, and for the most part everything else will be low-lying and not blocking any of our views. So up front we have our herb beds. We have some stuff that overwintered, like our thyme and our parsley and our peppermint, of course, and the peppermint is trying to take over the entire bed. Those of you who have planted peppermint know exactly what that's like. But we have planted a couple other things in there, like some basil. And then we have another bed here that the bee balm has gone crazy from last year. Apparently it is much like mint, and I'm gonna have to do something to try and get it under control as well. But I've decided to make this like a tea garden, so it's got some chamomile planted in there. I also planted some echinacea in here, so it's gonna have some floral stuff going on in here, so the bees and pollinators will really be excited about these front 2 beds up here. And then after that we have some strawberries, which we have decided to dedicate several of our boxes to strawberries because they are perennials and are going to come back every year. So we have this 3rd bed over here, and then over on the other side, mirroring side, up front we have another herb bed, and then we have 2 beds of strawberries here behind us. So we planted 150 bare root strawberry plants this year. This was our tomato bed last year, which is why it has this trellis that we built. We decided to not do tomatoes in these raised beds again because they get so tall and unruly. And for me, being only about 5'1", it is impossible to get all of the strawberries off when they get to the top of this trellis, so we've decided to put those in the ground this year. You can see behind me that we are expanding our garden area over, so we're not going to be just raised beds this year. This year we are expanding to some market row gardens right beside here. I'll give you guys a glimpse at that here in just a minute. So instead of tomatoes in that bed, we planted some lima beans, and then right across from it on this side is also lima beans. They have not started coming up yet, and I'm curious, I might dig back the soil a little bit to see if the beans are still in there, because I think that they might be one of the culprits of this little bug possibly have eaten our seeds. So I'm going to peel it back and take a look at that here in a minute. This bed here is going to be green beans on one side, and I planted some jalapeno peppers on this other side. They all got nibbled down to nothing, so I'm gonna have to plant something else over there. These green beans look really bad, and that is what I caught the bug on the other day. Over here on this mirroring bed next to it is also green beans, and the same thing. I'll give you guys a close-up of that in just a minute. And then we have some yellow squash that is on the back side of that. We have our hoop tunnel trellis here. I haven't finished putting them over on this side yet. This side of the trellis we also have green beans. This side doesn't look as bad as what that side does, which is so strange, which makes me think that there are more of these critters in one bed than the next bed. And maybe it's something to do with the mulch. I don't know. But green beans on this side, I've got some dill growing in there, and I believe some marigolds on the other side, because once these two trellises are full of stuff, I'm not going to be able to get into the middle of the bed, so I didn't want to use that space for stuff that I'm going to have to reach in there and grab too much of. And then the back side of this, I've got some butter beans. On the other side of the trellis is more butter beans on this side, and then on the back side are some lettuces and some edible flowers, which is the same over on this back bed. And then I have my cucumbers, so I'm going to have one variety of like slicing cucumbers. They're the long Japanese cucumbers on this side, and then on the other side are going to be my pickling cucumbers, which look really sad as well. So I'm a little discouraged, but you know, it's so early in the season right now. It is the middle of April, so I'm not terribly defeated or anything like that. I know that there's some time to get things right and get stuff put back in the soil and hopefully get off to a better start. You know, whenever you spend time and energy into something and then it just gets ruined right away, it's a little bit of a bummer. But no worries, we're gonna try and figure this out together. And then of course behind me, you see some collards. These are from last fall. They obviously have gone to seed and flowered out. I've already planted my green beans on one side and my cucumbers on the other side, but I've left the collards because all of the honeybees and other pollinators have been loving these flowers because it is early spring, so there's not a whole lot for them to enjoy right now. So I've left them, and I'm going to leave them up as long as I can. As long as they're not blocking sunlight from my other plants, then they're not really causing any kind of nuisance. Okay, so the point of pulling this camera out and starting this video, let's get on to it. So as I mentioned, our green beans that I planted have taken a really big hit. You can see that they're all chewed off. Their stems are chewed. And the fact that there's only 1, 2 here, and it's supposed to be this whole bed all the way down on this side full of green bean sprouts. These are the only ones that I have. I can see a few stems that have popped up that are leafless, so those obviously got chewed off, but I'm not sure that the rest of them didn't get eaten under the soil, which is a big possibility. As we speak, I am looking here and I see some of the pests that I wanted to warn you guys about. So let's take a closer look. You guys see that? You see what I see? Roly-polies. Some people call them pill bugs. These are these little bugs that whenever you get close by to them, they actually curl up in a little ball. Okay, I don't know if you guys can even see that on camera or not, but down inside of this little hole where this bean comes out, look at this. Do you see that? What in the world? Look, and they're just eating away at it. Evidence right there. You see this, right? I've never heard of roly-polies being bad in the garden, and I've always seen roly-polies around the garden, but not in the amounts of them that I've seen when we filled these beds. So then I started doing some research. Apparently it is something that they can eat your garden goods, and so today I have decided to try a couple of methods to get rid of these things. Okay, we're over here at the lima bean bed, and I don't really know for sure where I planted them, but I'm thinking it was somewhere in here because it looks a little disturbed. So I'm gonna move this back some and see if I can come across a bean, because obviously if they're eating them underneath the soil, then it's not gonna ever have a chance to come up and see the light of day. And then I will have just wasted my time. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. What do I see here? Look at this. Okay. Here is my lima bean. It has started to sprout. But not only are there roly-polies down here, but we also have some centipedes. See if I can get a close-up. This is the inside of this lima bean. See this? See that? So this lima bean would never have a chance. So being one who tries to follow as many organic practices as possible in my garden, I usually will do a lot of like picking bugs off or spraying them with like some soap and water or something like that. But these guys live in the soil and it's going to be really hard to get a hold of them and get rid of them. So I did some research and I've got 2 different traps that I'm going to try tonight and see if maybe we can lure them out tonight, and then I'm going to put down a barrier of some diatomaceous earth. If you've never heard of that, what it is actually microscopic shell parts. So it's like finely ground water organisms that have been ground into this fine powder, and whenever soft shell bodies like pests in your garden crawl across it, it actually cuts little holes and cause them to die. So the very first trap that we're gonna try is actually a beer trap. So what we're gonna do is I have these little canning lids that I'm gonna use as like a little basin, and I'm just gonna sit it right in the middle of the garden bed here. Certain bugs are actually attracted to the yeast that is in beer. I have actually used this for snails and slugs before in a previous garden. Thankfully I have not had an issue with any slugs or snails in this garden, but when I read that this could help with roly-polies and maybe hopefully centipedes as well, I might as well give it a try. We had some old beer someone left in our fridge, so it's not any money out of my pocket, and so we can test it out and see if it works. If not, we'll move on to the next thing. Obviously, I haven't opened a beer in a while. This is a twist top. All right, so I'm gonna just fill it. I'm gonna fill it almost to the rim there, and I'm gonna set it right into the garden. So what will happen is these bugs will climb into that lid and drink the beer, and then obviously little bugs can't handle beer. Some people can't either, actually, but that's beside the point. So these bugs will climb into this lid here and have a little bug party and not be able to get back out. So I'll be able to check these traps in the morning and see if this worked or not. So now that we have the beer traps in place, I'm gonna do the second trap and see if maybe one of them works better than the other. So I read that putting out slices of citrus will actually cause them to climb up underneath it, because you know when you move like a box or something that's been sitting on the ground for a long time, usually you see a lot of roly-polies that are up underneath it. I'm not sure why citrus would draw them in, but I'm gonna try it out. We had a lemon. I saw in the pictures they had oranges, so I'm not sure if lemon works, but we have a lemon and it's kind of going bad anyways, so I'm gonna slice it up and put a slice in each bed too. So we'll see how that does. What I'm gonna do is put the pulp side down, and I'm gonna put this actually on the soil. So I'm gonna clear some of our mulch back and put it on the soil itself, because that's where they like to hide. So I guess the idea is once you put this down that they'll gather up underneath it, and then in the morning you can come out and just remove the whole slice of citrus with them on there and dispose of them however you want to. I have tried to feed roly-polies to my chickens in the past before, and they weren't fans of them, I guess because they are so hard to get a hold of. So if you guys know of any animals that will actually eat roly-polies, or even if you know of any other methods besides these two, please leave those in the comments below. The last part of our little plan of action here, I've got a big bucket of diatomaceous earth, and my strategy is to put the traps in the middle of the beds And then I'm going to sprinkle the DE as like a barrier on the outside of the traps so that whatever crawls to the traps in the middle maybe will crawl over the DE, and we'll see if maybe it's kind of like a double whammy thing. If you've never worked with DE before, it is extremely fine powder, and it will get all over your clothes and everywhere else too. It's gonna fly in the wind. A lot of people like to wear some kind of face covering while working with it. If I'm in an open, ventilated area like this, I just try and keep it downwind from me, because you don't want to breathe in a lot of this, because obviously, because of what it is, you know, getting into your lungs probably isn't the best thing to do. So I'm just gonna do a good solid line right down the center of the bed. And then I might do like a box actually, like that. So that anything that's crawling to these traps has to get over the line of DE first. Remember how a few minutes ago I just told you that we haven't had a problem with slugs in this garden yet? I came to check the beer traps like literally right after we put them out, and look at this. Yep, that's a slug. He showed up to the party already. It's pretty wild how fast that was. I wanted to give you guys a quick glimpse at our new area. Told you that I'd show you this new in-ground area that we're putting in. So we'll have 5 market rows here. The tarping will be the walking space in between each. So we have the ground covered with some good quality compost, and then we have a couple of bags to plant our seeds directly into, and then we've got a big stack of straw over there that we're going to cover it all to mulch it really well. Also, as you can see behind me, maybe, this is another new area that we've just established, which is our fruit orchard. Excited to see this place come to life and all the food that it's going to bear for us. So anyways, that is it for tonight. We're gonna go inside and then we'll be up bright and early tomorrow morning to check the progress of our traps. So see you guys in the morning. It's the next morning. Sun just came up a little while ago. Got my coffee in hand. I'm ready to go check out these traps and see if we caught anything last night. I'm really curious. Looks like bed 1 we have nothing. Maybe a gnat. Nothing in bed 2. I got a couple things in bed 3. Let's take a look. So we've got, I see 1 roly-poly, a centipede, here's a slug getting ready to make his way in, and there's a couple of ants and gnats in there as well. So nothing too exciting, but we did get 2 of the critters we were after. Okay, so here's one of our lemon slices. Let's see if there's anything underneath this. Nothing. Nothing that I can tell. Check this lemon. And there's a few fire ants on here actually. Ooh. Let me get a stick. Okay, that one's just full of fire ants. There is a roly-poly. A couple of earwigs. Interesting. Not really sure what that is. Okay, so there's a slug. I'm assuming that's a slug. A roly-poly. And a tiny centipede. There's one on top, actually. Ooh, yeah, there's a couple under there. Several, actually. Look at that. They did stick to it. I'm just gonna stick this whole thing in the beer trap. Just go ahead and do away with those. But look at this area where I just pulled this lemon up from. There's lots of them. I think I'm gonna leave them out until lunchtime when it's a little bit warmer. Maybe they'll want to migrate to a spot that is a little bit cooler and has some moisture to it. So we'll give it till lunchtime and we'll check them again and we'll see what happens. Welcome back to the garden. It is early afternoon and I just made my rounds looking at all of the beer traps and the lemon traps, and they're not much different than they were this morning. It's not enough yet to make me feel like this is going to solve our problems. I really think the DE is going to be our best bet for that. So I think having traps like this to lure them over that DE is going to be one of our best lines of defense. So with that being said, I think I'm going to leave the beer traps out for a couple more days, and the DE should stay good and dry because we don't have any rain in the forecast for the next couple days. So maybe that will help get rid of some of the population. I think what I'm going to do when I replant seeds is keep all of the mulch away from where I planted at. Maybe that will help keep some of the buggies away from the seeds, and they'll at least get to sprout and have a chance of growing. If you guys have any other options or ideas, please leave those in the comments below. I'm going to keep trying these methods and seeing if it makes a difference or not. I'll keep you guys posted on how it goes. Thank you guys for coming along on this little experiment with me. Maybe this trick would work for you guys with some of the other insects that you might be having an issue with. As you saw, the slugs come in from miles away for the beer, so if you're having issues with them or snails, this definitely has worked for me in the past before. I mean, any dent in the population is better than it was before. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can keep up with all of our gardening videos. We're getting ready to roll into the busy season in the garden, and we're excited to share it with you guys. But until the next video, we will see you later.